Oh, good, Jen.
Yeah, sorry, I just had to grab something.
Not a problem. I just want to make sure everything was okay.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome. Mary Jane and I are so glad you're here, and that we're all together in this space with each other today. Um, you all know who I am, and so I won't share much about me for you all. But for those of us, or those of you watching, sometime near in the future, if you don't know who I am, I'm Jan Jeremias. I'm a health and wellness coach and yoga teacher. I've been working with people and their pets in health related realm for um, many years, and I love what I do. And I truly value all the relationships I've built and all the wisdom that has been shared with me and that I've shared with others. It is always a mutual learning together in these conversations and in working with other people. Um, I guess I'll share. Um, it has been just, I don't think I can say it. Sorry.
Would you like me to share, Jen?
Okay.
Um, this has been a really difficult week for Tonka, for Jan's Tonka. And so we are approaching perhaps transition, and we're just glad to be in community with you and taking one breath at a time together and surrounding Jan with our love and support um, as we move towards what we know is our is an end for us all, but just knowing that she's surrounded by our love, and as well as praying for easy transition and support for Tonka uh, as well. So um, I will continue on and just know that we welcome you to this space. I know that you know who I am as well, but as a seasoned graphic designer, I'm also the founder of my own creative studio, and I'm honored and blessed to be the co-founder of Spiritboard Imaginings alongside of Jan. And it's in this space that we feel safe to hold gentle and intentional conversations and meditative experiences, really, that for all of us, we're invited to slow down and soften and reconnect with ourselves, because our space, we hope, we believe, we trust, is a place of presence and compassion and curiosity, and just coming together to support self-kindness for ourselves, as well as compassion for those around us. And a reminder that, as always, that there's nothing you need to do or achieve here. There's only an invitation to really arrive exactly as you are in this moment, exactly as you are in this moment. And today, rather than a poem, we were going to begin um, to have an invitation to listen inward and sense what wants to be present for us today. And so we're going to offer this video just that we came across that really touched our hearts, and hopefully will have some sort of meaning and resonance for you. So bear with me for a moment while I switch and share screen.
I'm proud to be English. My family have served and we've defended this country and we've been to war for this country.
I'm really patriotic about Bangladesh. Well, I am 100% Icelandic, yeah, definitely.
This is a Kurdish wedding with my mom in the traditional Kurdish clothes.
We're just proud black, so that's it.
Yeah, I think we are probably the best country in the world, if I'm honest.
Think about other countries and other nationalities in the world. Are there any that you don't feel you get on with well, or you won't like particularly?
Germany. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Germans.
You might think they're a little bit...
Particularly India and Pakistan, probably, because of the whole, you know, the conflict.
Because I have this side of me that's like, that hates Turkish people. Not people, but the government.
But French?
No.
We're just the best, you know, it's just fact.
I'm more important than you. I don't know you, but in my opinion, I am strong and I am more important than a lot of people.
How would you feel about taking a journey based on your DNA?
Yeah, I feel very intrigued.
What could you possibly tell me that I don't know?
So do you know how DNA works? So you get half from mum and half from dad, so 50% from each of them, and they get 50% from their parents, and back and back and back. And all those little bits of your ancestor, they filter down to make you, you. I need you to spit in this tube for me. And you spit up to the little black line.
That's a lot of spit.
Right, the story of you is in that tube. What's it going to tell me?
It's gonna be, oh yeah, you're French, and wait, your grandparents are French, and wait.
100% Bengali.
Solid Iraqi.
I'm Cuban.
You're gonna tell me that I'm English, like I've told you.
Jay, can you come down and join us?
I'm a little bit nervous, I have to say.
So you ready to find out your results? Will you read it out to us, please?
Wow, look at me.
Oh my God. Oh, wow. Shit, I didn't expect that.
All of them.
Whoa! No! No!
Caucasus, which was Turkish?
Yeah.
Eastern Europe, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece.
I'm 32% British.
What?
Great Britain, 30%. Can we 5% German?
I'm Irish.
Yeah.
So I'm a Muslim Jew.
Great Britain, 11%. Are you sure these results are mine?
Eastern Europe?
Iceland has definitely moved closer to Europe now.
I'm gonna go a bit far right now, but this should be compulsory. There would be no such thing as like extremism in the world if people knew their heritage like that. Like, who would be stupid enough to think of such thing as like a pure race?
In a way, we're all kind of cousins, in a broad sense. In a much more direct sense, you have a cousin in this room. Turn around and guess who it is. Waj,
Yeah. What's that?
why don't you come down here and meet your cousin?
God, this is the best.
Did you know that?
I didn't know I did. This is like, my heart's pounding right now, I swear to God. We met.
Jay from everywhere by the reason of this.
I'm a real man of the world.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you.
So would you like to travel to all of these places?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And now you know the reasoning behind our title, One. Jan, if you're able, I turn it to you.
Thank you, Mary Jane, and thanks for sharing that very inspirational and meaningful video today. And so welcome, everyone. We are really glad again that you're here. This week's theme, One Beneath the Surface, is an invitation to gently shift how we see ourselves and one another. So often we move through the world noticing what is visible, our differences, our roles, our identities, our experiences, and all of that matters. It shapes who we are and who we become. And yet, what we're exploring today is what exists beneath all of that. Research shows that human beings share far more than we often realize and even ever realized. We are wired for connection. Our nervous system responds in similar ways to stress and to safety. We feel joy, grief, fear, and love through shared emotional pathways. Even our capacity for compassion is not something we have to learn. It is something that is already within us. And at the same time, we also know that there are moments when we feel disconnected from ourselves, from others. What's important here is understanding that this disconnection is often a reflection of our state, stress, overwhelm, protection. It's not a reflection of who we are at our core. So today is not about dismissing our differences. It's about holding them with a deeper awareness, an awareness that beneath the surface, we are shaped by many of the same forces. We carry many of the same needs, and we are wired for connection, care, and belonging. And as we move into our time together through conversation, reflection, and at the end, meditation, we invite you to come with curiosity, to notice what is shared between us, what feels familiar, what connects us to ourselves and to each other, and to allow yourself to experience, not just think about, but truly experience what it means to be human together.
Beautiful reflection, Jan. And I loved in the research for the topic. We were discussing it in research. We were talking about, you know, that a lot of the lend towards the fact that compassion is actually our natural state as a human. We often, we often think that, humans are just primarily self-interested or competitive, and that's true. We are. But compassion is a beautiful side of what makes us human, and realizing that we're not alone in this experience. And that, in fact, as Jenna, you and I have had conversations many times, is that if perhaps we could focus on the things that make us the same instead of focusing on the things that make us different, we would definitely have a more compassionate world, definitely one that's aimed towards empathy and compassion and true kindness.
Absolutely. I think we are quite similar, and I think we are in our research as we read, so as we always do in preparation, and so much of that compassion and that nurturing is inherent in the evolution of our species. And, I don't know that we recognize that always, that is so part of who we are on the deepest level. It's not something we have to learn. It's something that is inherent in our survival and has been since, you know, the human species evolved. And there's some beautiful, beautiful work by Dr. Keltner that speaks to this, that speaks to our species, the human species, and from development, from, the development of an infant and the self-reliance of that infant on others to survive, sort of is how we evolved as this truly compassionate and caring and connected species. And we often think of it as a trait, like, like a value. Someone's compassionate, that's a value. But it's really so much more than that. It's so much deeper. And that's really an amazing thing to think about when we think about looking beyond the surface and thinking of us each as one, everybody as one.
Absolutely. It's so true. And I love how, there's parts of like neuroscience, because I know you're the science nerd, but I like that too. So, just like, it's that it's a, a neurobiologic process. So and it's involved in so many systems in the brain, which for me was fascinating because I'm new to the science nerd thing. But I just really liked how, the articles were speaking to, um, that so many regions can sort of like be activated when we really, when compassion becomes the forefront of how we integrate and interact with the world.
Absolutely. And I think that we have to look at what sort of draws us away from that state, when we're distracted, when we're overly stressed and anxious, which is kind of like the sort of the lull that generally the population now operates at.
Mm-hmm.
We are drawn away from that compassionate side. We do become, and rightfully so, because that's considered quote unquote dangerous or a threat. And we become very self-absorbed. And we forget that connection. And it's almost like I feel like it's like all of a sudden, as opposed to one, we talk about tapestry or mosaic, each one of us becomes a piece of glass. And there's no merging and no creation of something that's bigger or larger than ourselves. We become very self-directed. And I'd love to hear what Seamus has to say.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Thanks, Jan. Thanks, Mary Jane. And we're all with you, Jan, at this tough time. And again, it's very apt, I suppose, the topic today is about the oneness and the connection, like, is a foundational word, like, that I've been putting a lot of thought into lately as well. And connection is a, core fundamental part of oneness, really, isn't it? Everything is connected. And another part of that I was thinking about is a service. And I just put a post up yesterday on LinkedIn, which ties into this topic as well, of transactions. We live in a very transactional world, and it's a very superficial level of transaction we've come to kind of value, like there's the commercial transaction of the striving and the chasing and the closing the deal. And what we're talking about here is the other end of that. It's the human transaction, the transactions that happen at the human level within the cell. Even we have cells that are connected and interacting and are supporting and loving and connecting and serving and dying and leaving. It's very apt into the Tonka situation as well around. It's like the cells in the body. The cells are continuously acting as one body. Like there's one cell, one organ, one part of a bigger system. And I think it's a great analogy for, us as people, how we are all connected and interact and ultimately are one system. And how we serve, I think, with compassion and with empathy, by not allowing ourselves to get distracted by the superficial transactions that we've come to, accept as being that we overvalue, I think, somehow, really. And I think that's the opportunity within these conversations is to be able to put into context the transactions that we have come to value, and we call them out for what they are, which is very shallow transactions when we come to consider the power and the depth of oneness, of connection, of service, of not expecting a return, but just the act of giving the service and being connected is more than enough. And it kind of reminded me just of a small article in Essential Zen. If I can read it, I think it applies as well to exactly what we're talking about today. From from Seong San, and it's just a very short paragraph. If you don't mind, I'll read it.
Oh
So
no,
so
please
Zen,
name it.
yeah. So Zen mind is not Zen mind. That is, if you are attached to Zen mind, then you have a problem, and your way is very narrow. Throwing away Zen mind is correct Zen mind. Only keep the question, what is the best way of helping other people? And I think that's at the basis of, transactions that matter when it comes to connection, to service, and not expecting anything in. And that is enough. So, yeah, our hearts are with you, John.
Um, Thank you, Seamus, so much. And that, thank you for reading and sharing that beautiful article. And I don't, I think if you get down to, if we talk about, you know, labels and whatever, I think if you go to Mary Jane, and I also share a lot about this in our conversations, like if you go back to the basis of almost probably every faith or every religion, it was always about the same things. And that was, things like that. What is the best way to help other people? When I was listening to the podcast with Rabbi Shai Held, and he talks about in the Old Testament, the word love is not mentioned once, which I didn't know. I mean, it seemed when I first heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, I never realized after all of my studying of all the, of the Old Testament for, many, many years as a child and teenager, I never knew that. And he said they use words like service. Like that is what, like, there's like many words for love, not the more traditional word for love in Hebrew, which is ahava, which means love, which comes also from the root word of heart. So that makes a lot of sense. But they use words like service. And so it was so interesting as you shared that, Seamus, that's what I thought about. What's the best way to help other people? And you use the word service. How can I serve others? And so that's really a beautiful way to think about it, and to maintain that connection. What's my best way to serve? And I think I've shared before, that was my mother's phrase, was when we were bored growing up, she would say, go out and help someone, go out and serve someone. If we were bored, it was like, you don't have time, like you shouldn't be bored. You have like kind of too much and you have too many things you could do. You don't know what to do, just go out and help somebody, was her attitude. So she would like push us out the door, my wonderful mom who like asks about all of you, actually. Mary Jane and I was talking about, I mentioned people, and then my conversations with her, because I speak to her maybe once or twice a day, she'll always say, oh, how Seamus. It always makes me laugh because she's so funny in that way. And that's the way she would always ask about my friends growing up. Always. And to her, I'm still not grown up. So I guess, now, so now, you're still a part of the crowd, a part of those like relationships.
And that's the power of connection. Like it's so simple, like John, isn't it, as you described that? Like we've never met your mother, but I'm connected with her. Like when we allow ourselves to kind of operate from that space of, disconnect from the distraction of transactions, of many aspects of superficiality of the world. And again, it's finding that balancing act. We can't ignore like the day-to-day activities and the transactions and going to the shop and paying for a pint of milk or whatever. But it's that balance of not forgetting the power of that authentic connection, the root connection, like back to root identity we've talked about before, and finding a way of showing up and remaining connected with your roots and the foundation of those, core human as traits, I suppose, or values that we're all built out of as we show up and serve other people. And I think that's how we transmit love, how we transmit everything, how we transmit anger, is through honoring that connection to the oneness and the simplicity and the beauty of allowing us to acknowledge the gift of life, basically, which is kind of what I've integrated into some aspects of the heart math now. And again, even in trying to chase the coherence of heart math, I've had to do a little bit of reset like last week because I was just forcing myself too much as I did a couple of months ago as well. And again, this conversation today is very apt because it's not forcing, goes back to breath as the bridge. It comes back to when you don't force and when you allow and offer gratitude for just the privilege of life, that's when the magic happens. And I think that's the beauty of, what your mother said to you as well. Like just go out and help someone. How simple is that? But how profound and how beneficial that is, like in terms of just the basics of, service to yourself and service to others and the power that you feel when you help someone else, when you serve someone else, how that feels basically, and of creating space in your life for more and more and more of that, I think is part of the quality of and the nature of oneness, I think.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you said, like in the breath, and so yeah, heart math and others. I happen to be giving a talk on Tuesday on breathing, on the respiratory system, on the anatomy of the breath. And, our breath is, we all breathe. And so I think it's just this uniting factor that we all like, that we breathe in our connection to, we all know it helps us connect inward to ourselves. It helps us, reminds us that we are connected together and that we are also connected to the greater world. And so, so there's this very profound thing about, I think what happens is, and I've had my experiences with you with heart math, Seamus, or when we practice together in a space and you all breathe together like we did in the beginning. There's something very connecting about that, is breathing and focusing on that breath in unison.
Absolutely. It certainly brings us into the now, into the present, right? When we, like we did before we began recording, you know, really just took a collective community breath together, and the connection, the energy, the power that invokes into this space, because of all of you. We're extremely blessed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just, I think, and a lot of times too, is, coming back to the idea of like, I mean, the human condition from evolution part is, really um, being in that flight or fight kind of mode. And I loved how one of the articles that we were reading, they were talking about, you know, yeah, this is the way the human brain has evolved as far as, as prioritizing, our safety and survival. But, and it may temporarily reduce our ability to really uh, listen or be attuned to what others are sort of truly putting out into the world. So it was just an interesting thing, because I said, just because that's happening, that doesn't mean that empathy or compassion is lost. It's a natural nervous system response. But how important is it for us to be aware that being of service, of, as I was sharing in the chat, that, service is compassion and action of, you know, looking past the things that make us different and focusing on the things that make us humans, that make us one race, one human race. So it's just, you know, because when we feel safe or nervous system may feel regulated or whatever, that empathy and compassion can return in an instant. It's not something that we have to work on. It's also a natural state for us to be in, um, when we choose to be there.
Absolutely. And I think it's very important for us to realize that that it is a temporary state, that when we get very lost in whatever we're going through, and rightfully so sometimes,
Of course.
That it is of service to ourselves to kind of process whatever we're going through. And that when that decreases and when that sort of softens a little bit, you will return back to who you were. The thing is that, we can't live in that space. And I think society and the world is kind of pushing us in that direction all the time. It tries to pull us outside of ourselves and to become preoccupied with, all that's going on in the world. And, and then all of a sudden it's like, I think that's why people become desensitized.
Yes.
It's kind of like that overwhelmed because they become so overwhelmed by what's going on in the world. It's almost like they become paralyzed by the state of the world.
Well, it's true. And also the fact that there's an overload of, it's amazing how humans can have the greatest ability to hone in on the negative energy, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, because sometimes as much as we try to deflect those things that are coming in, the perpetual state of the world, especially now in this age that we're living in, instantaneous connection, both negative and positive. And so right now it seems like there's a lot of negative that's forcing its way into the world. But I think that our place in service is bringing that positive energy, that warm, loving community energy that's filled with just compassion and service back into the conversation.
Absolutely. I think it's so important to find spaces like these and wherever you sort of other places you find yourself in, opportunities to, step back and really feel and experience and contribute in some form, which I know you all do. And therefore, create and look beyond that which is on the surface, which I also know you all do. Yeah, very important.
Yeah. I loved one of the articles was speaking to the idea of um, that generosity, um, of which compassion, I believe, can be one, of that pieces of that is supported by our natural neural reward systems. So it's just like I just love that, um, you know, by acting in a way that feels like we're being generous or compassionate or of service, however you want to refer to that, is just that how it has such a connection to the pathways in the brain of our own feelings of well-being and and feeling that we have our place in the world.
And I think in, a number of the articles, they actually talk about the, like, if you were to go back and look at what it means to be truly fulfilled, it's really those connections and those relationships and that compassion and empathy, which are correlated to feeling, people feeling fulfilled. And I think it's because most of the time when you have a passion or you are compassionate, it somewhat becomes somehow woven into like your purpose, that idea of service. And so it is very connected to our feelings of being fulfilled and complete and whole in the world, of sort of that personal feeling of success, as opposed to a lot of the other ways I think we grow up and we figure that what is successful or what it means to be fulfilled. And I think then it also becomes somewhat, I like it also because it becomes somewhat personalized. It's not like, what fulfills you is going to necessarily fulfill me. Yes, it may be all in service, but the mode upon which we do that service might be different. But it is all about, it's like the grander umbrella. We talk about umbrella from past few weeks, the umbrella of being of service in some form. Then it's like, okay, we're all of service and each one of us brings our gift or, how we serve to the community, to the whole.
Yeah. To the one, right?
To the one. To the one. I love that. To the one.
It's such beautiful, the conversation, just because it's just, for me, I mean, that it was a beautiful reminder, although I already, my mission and vision already encompasses kindness, empathy, and compassion, and always been in the place of service, and to bring sort of an understanding for me personally, and also to ripple out those things into the world. And like I said, to remind people, um, that we are one, and we do have the power of choice, and we can make this world a better place. We just need to, you work as one.
Mm-hmm. And not only work as one, thank you for the world there, Al. Not only work as one, but I think we need to recognize that we are all one. That, what we do individually affects the greater whole in some way. That, we think of it as only, what I do only affects me. But I think we all know that, even if you just look at the people around you or whatever, that it's really not, what you do really does affect everyone in your household, in your, and even and affects the one, which is you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what I thought was interesting when you talk about kindness was the fact that when they did these studies, I guess, and they were asking, interviewing people from all over the world, it was from multiple countries, and they were talking about the qualities or the things that people look for in a partner, and across cultures, across like backgrounds, the hugest thing that like the most relevant factor was kindness. It wasn't like socioeconomic. It wasn't, a particular way of, beauty, which fades. It was kindness, which I thought was makes a lot. I was very happy to hear that, but I thought it might have been something a little bit more, I don't know, material, I guess.
Well,
And I was
yes.
really, and I was really like, wow, that's kind of nice to hear that that was the biggest, like when people were looking for a partner, that was what, what they were looking for. That was the trait that stood out to them most in the people or the partners they chose.
Well, I suppose in some sense that it does make sense, right? I mean, when you think because if you see somebody that is basically they are showing, they're demonstrating kindness in action to those those are there. Thank you, Paul. um that those are things that we really um we're looking for. We look to see how somebody that we might be choosing as a partner, or sometimes even just as a friend. I mean, I guess as a partner in a sense, but just in a relationship, it's the way they interact, the way that they treat other people. We're not always the best at seeing that, or some people are just better at masking that that's not the way they really are. But, it's just, I think it kind of makes sense because I mean that was the whole thing where they were talking about how, in the process, I mean, this is the way communities and different things evolved and survived because they had to rely on each other. They had to um, view each other through the eyes of kindness, empathy, and compassion. That's how they survived. That's how they worked as a team and move forward together. Not to say that I'm sure there was probably some that even in those evolutionary times probably weren't exactly in that same mindset. But overall, the collective work together as, as a community and in service to one another, and that's how they move forward. So it's,
Absolutely. Yeah, sorry. So it was a real collaboration.
yes, absolutely.
It was a real collaboration in the way they moved forward. And,
We're
you
stronger
know,
together. That's
that's right.
that's we know we're stronger together. Sometimes we just forget that in the process of our busyness and focusing on our own things that we want to do or we want to get done or what we think our mission and vision is or whatever. But it all comes back to we are one and we're stronger together.
Yeah, and I think I did love the beautiful work by Dr. Keltner mentions about, evolution as a species. The fact that, we are the only species which basically, um, very few species, at least for as long a period of time as human beings do, where infants are totally reliant on others to survive. That, if you look at other species far younger and much closer to the time they're actually birthed into this world, they become very self-sufficient and very self-reliant. And human beings are not that. And because of that, that is how we evolved. We evolved to be able to work together. And where, that whole idea of communal raising and the fact that people would come together or families would come together to really, to raise children and infants. And, and in many cultures that still happens. Not so much in the US. I mean, people, transactionally pay someone to care for their young, but it's not necessarily done by, or I don't know that it's very commonly done by families anymore. Here, anyway.
Yeah, yes, I would say that probably in general, it has happened that way. But even if we are hiring other people to look after our young, we're still looking after our young in, in the same
Right,
way,
true,
right? Because even though
true.
I don't want to say farming, but because we're passing that responsibility off to others, it still is community because that's still all of us working towards something together. And we don't, well, I shouldn't say we don't, because I'm sure there are definitely humans out there that have done this, but in most circumstances, we're not just throwing saying to the kids, well, I need to go to work now, so just throwing them to the curb going, fend for yourselves. So, I mean, in a way, we still are working in that context. It's just that now, maybe rather than it being just in the sense of evolutionary service, it's just sometimes paid service, shall we say.
Very, very true. Mary Jane, very true. But I still, I don't think one substitutes for the other, but that's just my personal
Well, no,
opinion.
of
Yeah,
course not. But I mean,
yeah.
I mean, we even in evolutionary times, we passed off people to our, kids or whatever,
Absolutely.
elders to others to care
True.
for because that's how it had to be done while others had to go about, with their hunters, gatherers, whatever we were at that time. So
Absolutely.
it's I think Austin had his hand up and there's Darlene and
Yes,
Al
yes,
after him. So
yeah. So Austin, please.
Hello, thank you so much. I resonate deeply with this conversation. What a great opportunity to tune in. I'm multitasking, so I'll keep it short. Um, first, I'll start preference with I love the conjunction of fulfillment with service. That really, really deeply resonates. I'm moving through a lot of that and figuring that out, and it's such a joy to lean into that world. And the quick segment I'd like to add for this is a African proverb, and I believe it goes, "A child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth." Thank you. I'm complete.
Um, Austin, thank you. And please put that proverb, well, whatever that African quote in the chat, because that was really very powerful. And Darlene.
Good morning. I'm hoping my voice will come through okay because I woke up sounding like this morning. So please forgive my frogginess. I had a quote that is sitting on my cork board that has been on my cork board for I can't remember how many years. I discovered it a number of years ago in all of the facilitation that I used to do and still do. I quite often would bring it forward because I'd often find myself in rooms where different people had different experiences and sometimes they couldn't see each other. And it's quite short. If I could, I would love to share it with the group.
Yeah, please.
Our uniqueness, our individuality, and our life experience mold us into fascinating beings. I hope we can embrace that. I pray we may all challenge ourselves to delve into the deepest resources of our hearts, to cultivate an atmosphere of understanding, acceptance, tolerance, and compassion. We're all in this life together. And it's by Linda Thompson. And it sits there invisibly beside me so that I never forget that. We're all in it together. So thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. Yes, we are all in it together. Al, please.
Yeah, so it's the surface that we actually dug up all our wisdom. So basically, this week's theme beneath the surface, So the surface is underneath is where all we stand together as the roots coming up and growing into smaller plants with the leaves, and then it goes into a tree. Tree grows bigger and bigger and start to bear fruits, and that's where we are. So the acronym for the surface is a S, surrounding, then us as a U, and then R is for R, surrounding us. Our friends for F, awakening, compassionate empowerment. So that's where we bring out our compassion in us and the love and the harmony, togetherness within us. And like what earlier on we were saying, talking about service. So it's all service from the heart. When we are surrounded by our friends, we serve from our heart, and no matter what, we listen to them when when they are in grief or they're talking about other things that are not happening or be challenging for them and all that, and we empower them along the way so that we bring them up together and awaken their soul and make them become a better person overall. Yeah. So thank you. I'll put the acronym in the chat.
Yes, please, Al, thank you. And once again, I'm reminded of that interview with Shai Held, where he talks about the phrase from the Old Testament. And I don't usually like to, whatever. So, which was love thy neighbor as thyself. And he talks about that whole phrase being somewhat controversial in a lot of ways. It's like, how can, I love someone, let's say, as much as like, like if I have a daughter, how much can I love that daughter as much as I love your daughter? And he talks about that. And just one of the things he reflects on is that it's not absolute, is the fact that just because I obviously feel more love for my daughter doesn't mean I have no obligation to to someone else's child. They are different, but one does not erase the other. We can't spend all our time thinking about everyone else and not taking care of our own, sort of like, the shoemaker whose children had no shoes. But we also can't ignore people that are not what we might consider our own. If we live in this world, we have and I don't like to use the word duty, but we have somewhat of a, duty, responsibility, obligation to the greater whole. We don't live in our own little area, and we don't just not affect everyone else.
Absolutely. My goodness, what a what a deep and beautiful conversation. And thank you so much for those that that shared the quotes and stories and things like that. I mean, all of these things work towards a collective, beautiful um, awareness in this community, and we are blessed. Jan, do you think maybe now is a good time to move into our meditation so we have time to share the song at the end?
Sure, absolutely. So sit back for a moment or just be comfortable. Allow your body to be supported. It could be by the chair, by the surface you're sitting on or lying down on, by the floor beneath you. Gently close your eyes or soften your gaze and bring your awareness to your breath. No need to change it. Just notice the natural rhythm of your breathing. The inhale and the exhale. Let your attention settle just in this awareness, just noticing your breath and what is present at this moment. Now begin to feel the simple truth of the breath, the inhale and the exhale, the rhythm that is shared by every human being. Breathing in and breathing out. There's nothing unique about this breath, and yet it is deeply personal. And so we begin here with something both individual and shared. Now gently expand your awareness. Bring to mind the understanding that just as you are breathing in this moment, others are breathing too. People you know, people you don't know, all of us in this Zoom room, people across the world, different lives, different stories, and yet the same simple rhythm of breath. The inhale and the exhale that we all share, that rhythm. Let yourself feel into that. Now bring into your awareness, to your inner experience, and notice perhaps there are thoughts moving through your mind, emotions present in your body, sensations, subtle or strong. Whatever is here, just noticing. Now consider that the capacity to think, to feel, to sense is something we all share. Every human being experiences joy. Every human being experiences pain. Every human being knows what it is to long, to hope, to struggle, to care. The details may be different, but the experience is shared. Rest here for a moment, breathing, feeling, noticing. Now gently bring to mind someone in your life. It could be someone close to you or someone more neutral. And as you hold them in your awareness, consider this person too has a nervous system like mine. They experience stress and ease. They seek safety and connection. They feel joy and they feel pain. Not as an idea, but as a living reality. If it feels accessible, expand this awareness outward to include people who may feel different from you, people you may not understand, people who see the world in other ways. And simply hold this beneath the surface. They too are human. They too feel. They too respond. They too long to belong. Let this not be something you force, but something you gently allow or invite. Now return your awareness to yourself, to your breath, and silently repeat, I am human. I feel. I respond. I belong. And then others are human. They feel. They respond. They belong. And finally, we are more the same than different. Beneath the surface, we are connected. Beneath the surface, we are one. Rest here for a few breaths. Letting these words just settle, not just in the mind, but in the body. And when you're ready, begin to deepen your breath, gently bringing awareness back into this room, into the Zoom room. And slowly, in your own time, allow your eyes to open.
Beautiful and peaceful, Jan. Thank you for that. Just before we close out today, I wanted to share a song. It's actually, well, one of the writers, and it's performed by, it's actually my second cousin, and she she has a really folksy way of going through life. So I wanted to share that with you because it seems to really speak to the heart of what we were speaking of today. So if you bear with me for just one moment, I will share that with you.
We wait and we waver. With all the might we can muster, we test and are tested. Sometimes the best of us are bested, but we're only lost. We're only lost. We're only truly lost when all the good people can't decide what side we're on. There's hearsay and heresy to wade through when the waiting's deep, but my teachers have not taught me to hate what is not me, and we're only lost. We're only lost. We're only truly lost when all the good people can't decide what side we're on. We give voices to violence when we stand there in silence, but divine is not divided. The future's not decided, 'cause we're only lost. We're only lost. We're only truly lost when all the good people can't decide what side we're on. We're only lost. We're only lost. We're only truly lost when all the good people can't decide what side we're on.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Mary Jane. Really appreciate it. And we'll pop all the links to all the different videos we found that you guys might want to watch during the week. Yeah, we appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate all the love. Thank you all so much. We have a workshop tomorrow, Mary Jane and I, in the afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern time, if anybody wants to join. And this week on Thursday, we'll continue our 4-part series with Darlene. And it's actually my session. And it will be on wonder and awe.
Lovely. I'm really looking forward to it, Jan. I know you're going to bring something special, as you always do, as you facilitate. So thank you, everyone, for sharing and for allowing us to share and for just being in this space, and have a really blessed and wonderful weekend and week ahead. Thank you.